Let's talk about Walmart, stock symbol WMT. It has fallen 20% from its all-time highs that were just established in February. Now, I did a quick short on this one, I don't know, probably like 6 months ago, and I got a lot of backlash from people saying that, oh, Walmart's going to be great. It's going to continue to go in value. It's never going to pull back. Comments were pretty impressive about how naive traders and investors were about this stock's prospects and how overbought and how overhyped it was getting. Now, this is a stock that for years really didn't do much at all. I mean, you go back and look at its monthly chart, it was a sideways chart going back from like 2000 all the way until about 2016. And then just recently, over the last 5-6 years, it just went absolutely parabolic. And now there's a huge pullback here in the month of March that has seen a 20% drop from its all-time highs. Now, one of the quick responses that I get from people is that, well, Ryan, it's because the market's it's pulling back and the market's selling off and it's not helping Walmart at all. No, Walmart is actually falling twice the amount of what the market has fallen so far. That means that Walmart, is, especially at its market cap, is part of the reason. It's not just being affected by the market. It's the reason why the market's falling along with a number of other stocks. So Walmart is a huge problem. A lot of people will start buying the dip, no doubt. Whether or not that turns out to be a profitable trade or not remains to be seen, because what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to lay out some key price levels, some things that you should be worried about. And yes, there is the potential for a stock like Walmart, considering how ahead of itself that it got, that it could move back down into the lower 50s. And that's what we're going to talk about here in this video. So where things started to really take a turn for the worst is on this particular price level area at $89. This level broke, and we've seen over the last 3 days, price start to falter at a rapid pace. Now, you also have a declining trend line. So if you do get the dead cat bounce, you have to be mindful of the fact that this could work as some resistance against you. So this orange line off the all-time highs, it tested it back here in late February and again in early March, has become very much disattached from it. We're oversold in the short term. There is the potential for a dead cat bounce as a result. But what I would be watching for are these two price levels overhead. Price level resistance at 89 and again, declining resistance currently at just below 92. Those two levels could create some pushback for the stock that ultimately leads to another leg lower. Now, from a trend line standpoint, this particular trend line was looking pretty impressive here. It was holding fairly well, and then you had your first shot across the bow back on February 24th when it broke back below it, only to recapture it, but then ultimately it came right back down again, creating a lower low. So all throughout this chart's history over the past year or so, it has been marked by higher highs and higher lows. It's done a really good job of that. Now we have, with the break of these lows right here, going back to, we'll just be a little bit more conservative, on December 23rd, breaking below those lows, you now have a lower low in place. So if it gives you a bounce back, we're anticipating a lower high as a result, not a higher high. For it to be a higher high, it would need to, at this point in time, break back above the highs from March 3rd and then ultimately break back above the highs from late February, mid-February. Another trend line to be watchful of, and this is probably the most important one at this moment for Walmart because it is testing this trend line. How strong it is, I'm not so sure, because yes, it tested it twice in the early going, and then it tested it a third time here in August, and then it became completely detached and has yet to touch it until today. So from about August until now, and this is a trend line that had just been established back in May of last year, but there hasn't been a retest since August. So will the buyers remember that price rise in trend line to buy back the stock remains to be seen. If that level folds, this is where it starts to get ugly, because there's just not a lot of support underneath. You have this one, and again, there hasn't been a lot of tests of it in a long time. Perhaps it comes back down to the 78 level. You may be asking yourself, what about the 200-day moving average? Possible. I mean, there's a little bit of respect there for the 200-day moving average back on October of last year. If we zoom out a little bit further, you can see March of 2023. There was some respect there. And in fact, it wasn't October of last year. It was October of 2023 that it tested it there and held. Also, another testing point here right at January of 2023. So 3 instances where it did test and hold. You got a little bit muddied right here in December of 2023. Not a clean hold at all. It broke below it and then recaptured it fairly quickly. But since it hasn't tested it, it's coming up on it pretty quickly here. And that would be a test at around 82. If that holds, that would be impressive. But we don't have a lot to work with in recent memory. It's been over a year since it last tested, almost a year and a half. So assuming that doesn't really provide much assistance, then you have some additional trend line support that's sketchy at best at 78. The theme here is that there's not a lot helping this stock at all at the moment. There's just nothing of late that signifies that there's a lot of strength at any of these levels. So that's where it brings me back to, let's look at the weekly chart and zoom really far out. And this is going to be where some people probably lose it with me, and that's fine. But again, you look at over the course of time, how parabolic this stock has gotten. And yes, I know that they've done some innovation, they've done some great things, but the potential for a pullback to this level here, around $55, $54, and this would be in conjunction right now, at least, with the weekly 200 week moving average. There's been a little bit of support in the past, back in 22 at this level. You can go back a little bit to 2017 and there was some, but not much. However, this level right here is the level that I am watching for. This green line here. If it pulls back to this level, this would be where I would be looking for potential long-term buys at. You could probably even bump it up a little bit more aggressively to about $57 if you wanted to. But that is the area between 54 and 57 that I would be watching for a potential long-term buy. I'm not too interested in it before then, but if it comes back down to that 54 to 57 level, and I know some of you guys will think I'm crazy, and perhaps I am. I don't have to be right on every trade. That's just a matter of fact. But if I am right, it's going to offer up a great opportunity there. Again, my opinion on Walmart doesn't have to be yours. I agree that this is a pretty aggressive opinion. We're not in the here and now where that is really something to be anticipating. I don't expect that we're just going to crash and go from 84 down to 56 right away. However, we have seen a pretty significant pullback already, so that when you do get that dead cat bounce, and if that dead cat bounce falters and you get that next leg to the downside, then you want to start thinking about, okay, how far could this stock actually fall, and where could it ultimately find some support as a resting place to start its next major upward trend. If you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below how much you hate my opinion. I'm sure there's an element of that out there. But seriously, let me know what you think. Do you think I'm being a little bit crazy here by thinking that it could come down quite a bit more into the 50s before it becomes a really good long-term buy? Love to hear what you guys have to say. We'll discuss it. Just discuss it like decent people. Thank you guys, and God bless.